charts and stuff, it just algorithmically goes up. That slightest little bit gets amplified by the time it reaches the brain. So if you can take that initial hit off, then it saves you at the
absolutely it does. And what really, when you analyze these impacts, they're over 6 to 12 milliseconds in time, and the event's over. So it is a severe change in acceleration, and that's where the damage and the harm comes in. So if we can take some of that change of acceleration out of the equation and slow that down, when you start studying the curves and you see the onset of the curve is less severe than one that's going straight up, that's where our technology is showing some real benefit in the laboratory and the human.
So that gets us to the point where you are now. You tested it, you developed it, and you made a name for 6D with the dirt bike market.
Yeah.
40 miles an hour, maybe 50 mile an hour impacts. Now you've gone to the road race market, the street market, where it's considerably higher speeds, greater forces to deal with.
Yeah, it's interesting because speed's relative, for one, and it's all about speed in combination with gravity and mass. All of this comes into the equation. So in an off-road motorcycle accident, a lot of times people think, well, I wasn't going that fast, but I got knocked out, or I had this terrible crash and I was injured. How come? It's really about how quickly you're coming to that stop. And that's why I tell this story kind of often, but Terry and David Tom, myself and Robert were sitting in the red trolley. What's that? It's right over there by Honda, a little cafe. We went over it one night after all day in the lab testing. We sat down to have dinner, and we're just kind of talking about the day. We had these exceptional results in our helmet compared to the marketplace helmets. We're pretty excited about things. And I asked Terry and David, I said, hey, I got a question for you. In that real world equivalent accident to that test that we were doing today, DOT, ECE, the 7.5 meter per second impact to a flat anvil in the laboratory environment in 6, 7, 8 milliseconds. Is that, what's that mean to a human, that equivalent accident? And both of them concurred that 7.5 meter per second, the ECE level, Snell's 7.75, that's highly likely a fatality in a human, unsurvivable. But if that person happened to survive, then there would be a vegetable. They probably would wish that it was a fatal event anyways, because they won't have a normal life in any way, shape, or form. And so my next question, I said, so if it's a fatality at 7.5 meters per second to 0 in 6 milliseconds, what about DOT at 6.2? What's that mean? They also both concurred that they felt that's a highly survivable impact, definitely going to have brain injury, but may or may not make a full recovery. So just that velocity change from 6 meters a second to 7.5 meters per second in the laboratory testing, that equivalent impact, somewhere in there is mortality for a human, right? And it's probably closer to 7.5, right in there. If you ever see that, it's a severe impact.
And then taking it down to what Scott, your original sales guy, what's the elevator pitch at the dealership level? It's suspension.
It's basically safety. What I like to bring it back to is you have a responsibility to your customers to keep them safe so they continue riding and they pass this activity down to their children and their children's children. Early on in an earlier interview, I'd said, I want this, I've raced motocross since I was a young kid. It's what I'm most passionate about. I think it's the greatest sport ever. I want it to be around for my kids and their kids and their kids' kids. And at the rate the equipment has improved from a motorcycle standpoint, is going. They're getting better and better and lighter. We're going faster and faster. We're jumping higher. The risk is going way up. And if the body's not changing, we can train the body to some level, but the body's not getting better at handling these kinds of stresses. The riding equipment has to get better to protect us. And I think that's what's most important. So whenever I'm talking to a customer or a dealer or a sales rep, I want them to bring the safety component to the equation. We only have one brain. We know it doesn't heal very well. I've had a number of severe concussions over my lifetime, and they're no fun. I've been in the hospital overnight, both times bicycle related. My worst two concussions were bicycle related. One when I was a little dude, I didn't even have a helmet on, and that one was really bad. And then when I was an adult, I had a pretty severe impact in a mountain bike helmet, on a mountain bike with an excellent helmet on. But man, I was in the hospital overnight. So been there twice. It's no fun. We've got to do a better job of protecting the head.